Welcome back to Max's Muscle TV. Well, some of you may know that the people that take up the challenge have a choice of two separate programs, one to shred and one to build size. Max's Muscle Up Master Coach, Fred Liberatore, is going to take us through a routine that's perfect for the latter when he runs us through an awesome mass-building routine. Over to you, Freddie.
Today's routine's all about putting on size. So the theory is to lift heavy and to reduce your reps. The reason why is because as we're doing compound exercises, we're working major muscle groups. So it's very, very important to increase your weight and to drop your reps so we can go and really push the boundaries. Really, number one important thing to focus on when you're training for size is technique. As you build up your weights and do heavier weights, you can injure yourself with poor technique. So it's very important to make sure your technique is 100%. So training heavy, what that means is in a controlled manner. So a lot of people want to train super heavy and then they cause injuries to themselves. And when we say train heavy, we don't just mean one single repetition. We mean at least 5 to 6 maximum repetitions. And your 6th rep, you want to struggle a little bit, but perform the movement correctly. So there's a very easy way to figure out what weight is right for you. Generally speaking, if you're doing 3 and you struggle at the 3rd rep, well, that's way too heavy. Now, if you can do 8 or 10 or 12, that's too light. So you've got to scale it back to around about 6, and your last rep should be where you just struggle enough to get it up or to push it out. As we're doing a mass gaining routine, you should warm up with your body weight first. What I like to do for a warm up when I'm doing this is push and pull my own body weight. So something like chins is an awesome way to warm up. A lot of people do chins and they struggle doing chins. There are some other ways that you can do chins. You can do it vertically and then you can do it horizontally. So you can work your way up. That's the beauty of chins. Dips are fantastic. It's one of my favorite exercises, and you can go at various different levels as well. So you can go right down or right up. And push-ups, the good old traditional push-ups, really great for warming the body. As a warm-up, I will do 2 sets, generally speaking, of maximum reps in this case. So you really want to accelerate as much blood into the muscle as you can. So the first exercise is a seated cable row. This is a great exercise for your back. The important thing is with this movement is that you've got to keep your back nice and flat on its finishing position. So try not to rotate your shoulders too far forward and keep your back as flat as you possibly can, and maybe use a train of thought that someone has a knee positioned in the middle of your back on the finishing position. Although it's a back exercise, you're also going to work your biceps, your forearms and your shoulders as well. So it's a prelude to the next exercise that we're going to do. So the next exercise is the almighty powerful deadlift. Now this movement is regarded as the mother of all exercises. Why? Because it works your back, it works your arms, it works your shoulders, it works your abs, it works your legs, it works your glutes. It's a great overall movement. So there's a few things you want to remember. The first thing is your grip. You can grab what's called the pronated grip, or you can grab what's called the under and over grip. That's number one thing to remember. The other thing is your posture needs to be 100% in this movement. So your back and the way your back's positioned is really, really important, right from the start to the finishing positions. Very, very important that you don't curve your spine and rotate your shoulders forward, because what that'll do is that'll stress the spine. So it's important when you're lifting, your spine is flat. Very important. Do it right, it'll look after you and it'll be your best friend for life. So the next movement is the dumbbell one-arm row. And what we're doing here is we're focusing on the lats. There's really 3 things you want to remember with this movement. The position of your feet. So your feet have got to be positioned relatively close to the bench. Your back's got to be flat. And the other thing is your head should be position neutral. You shouldn't be turning your head. If you pull it up too high, it'll tend to work your upper back and your shoulders. You're not doing it right. And I like to pull it up to around about my hip. So if deadlifts is the mother of all exercise, this is the father of all exercises. It's a good old squats. Your feet have got to be shoulder width apart, and you've got to position the barbell on the back of your shoulders, not up too high on your neck. And very, very important, your back's got to be flat to execute the movement. Again, you don't want to be a hero squatting obscene amounts. What you want to be doing is keeping your form 110%. Execute the movement correctly and it'll be your best friend for life. Now the next movement is leg press. Now the fantastic movement about leg press is it's a great mass builder for the legs. Your feet need to be shoulder width or wider than shoulder width apart. And you need to be pushing with your heels, not your toes, but your heels. It's very, very important to push with your heels. And although it's a mass building program, I like to be going for 12 to 15 reps here, but again, in a controlled manner. Now for those people at the gym that are a bit more advanced, you can throw in some leg curls for your hamstrings, a great exercise, as well as some calf toe raises. You can either do them seated or standing. But for those people at home, relatively beginners, that's well and truly enough and you've covered your legs nicely. Now we're going back to the upper body, and the next exercise is a good old-fashioned shoulder press. And we've chosen to use dumbbells in this case. You're going to get a much better range of motion and you're going to cover the whole shoulder joint, so it's a really great overall exercise. The reason why we're choosing standing is if we're seated, we're relaxing and not engaging our core muscles. So it's very important to remember you don't want to recruit your lower back, #1 rule, and you want to slow the movement down on the way down and then accelerate it a little bit on the way up. So after shoulders, this is the next great exercise. It's a good old-fashioned bench press. Now in this case, I've actually gone for dumbbell bench press. You want to keep your feet flat on the ground and you want a strong position. So if someone was to push you, you'd be in a very stable position. Very, very important. Squeeze the muscle and feel the muscle. Put the mind in the muscle, as we say. And you can squeeze the movement up top, hold it for about a second, but don't cling the weight, and then control it all the way down. It's a fantastic movement. If you have got someone spotting you, great, do barbell, but I like to do dumbbell bench press because you get more leverage through to your chest. With a barbell, just generally stops there. With a dumbbell, you can go a little bit further. This is a great movement for chest. After we've done our chest, the other thing we want to do, and everyone wants big arms, is arms. We're indirectly working on our arms during this program. So we've indirectly recruited our arm muscles, both our triceps and biceps. We're starting with triceps, the reason being is because it makes up 3/4 of your arm. Now the important thing to remember, if you remember nothing else, is not to move your elbows when performing the next movement called skull crushers. All that moves is your lower part of your arm. That's all that moves between the elbow and your hand. That's all that you need to move. And you're lying flat on the bench. There's not much else you need to really know about the skull crusher. You can go for what's called an EZ bar, which is a curly bar, or you can do it with a straight bar, and you can even do it with dumbbells. So everyone loves the next exercise. Now the important thing is, again, like triceps, you don't want to move the elbow at all. And what you want to do also is you don't want to go to what's called full flexion. The reason being is because you actually relax your bicep muscles. So what you want to do is you want to go to about 90 degrees. So it concentrates and stresses the bicep muscles. Maybe you just want to lean forward a fraction, really squeezing the bicep. And again, just holding it up for a second. It's a very simple movement, so keep it simple and trust me, it'll work for you. Now that's it, guys. That's the mass building routine. Do your best to find that extra 1% and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Freddie. Awesome stuff. And to everyone that started the challenge, congratulations. You've taken the first step into getting into the shape of your life. OK, that's all we've got time for this week. We hope you've enjoyed it. And until next week, see you in the gym.